this is Virus again, and instead of having like an actual indie creator this time, I decided that we needed to talk about a charity that works with a lot of indie VTubers. And today I have Anastasia from Gamers Outreach.
Hi, I am Anastasia Stage. I am the talent/peer-to-peer fundraising director here at Gamers Outreach. My main focus at Gamers Outreach is working with different orgs, agencies, content creators, or even individuals who want to help fundraise for Gamers Outreach.
Can you tell us a bit about what Gamers Outreach actually is?
Absolutely. Gamers Outreach is a nonprofit whose focus is making play accessible to children in hospitals. Our tool of choice is video games, and we have a really cool program called Project Go-Kart, which you may have seen, that makes that really accessible. These go-karts are portable gaming carts that we build for the hospital with the hospital in mind and then donate them to hospitals actually all around the world.
And what do these go-karts do? They bring the video games to the kids in the hospital beds?
Yeah, so a go-kart, just to kind of give you an idea of what they look like, and definitely Google it or look at a picture, go to our website because it will help you visualize it a little bit more, but they have a monitor, a console, which can be an Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo Switch based on hospital or donor preference, and those come loaded with a ton of games. I tell everybody there's a game basically for any type of interest and any age range, which is the really nice part about go-karts. If you imagine having a doll or some blocks in a playroom, that's probably not going to be very applicable to a teenager, for example, playing, but a go-kart could service somebody as young as a couple years old all the way up into even adulthood. And then outside of the console, there is also wheels, so that way the carts can be rolled room to room. And the probably favorite part for hospital staff when you roll it around to the back is one cord. You just take that cord and plug it into the wall, and then the hospital staff can leave the room and it's ready to go, which I think is really, really nice because they don't have time to set up all of the different bits and pieces that come with a console. Imagine if you were taking just an Xbox and having to plug it into the wall and the TV and things like that. And then there is also some nice little lift mechanism so you can raise or lower the go-kart. Maybe you're in a wheelchair or in a hospital bed or you're standing. And the monitor actually tilts as well. So if you're laying in a bed, you're not going to strain your neck looking at the monitor that is on that go-kart.
So you guys have made it, like, designed it in mind with as many possibilities as possible for who's going to be using it.
100%. It is built with hospital, like, medical grade plastics that will withstand the cleaners, which is a really, really important part for the go-karts. Imagine how many kids a day could be touching and using the go-kart, and if they're in the hospital, they could be sick. So it has to be able to withstand those cleaners. Like I said, the monitors tilt, they can adjust the height. There's one cord, everything's locked up, which you would hope that nobody would steal from a hospital, but just in case, so the controllers and the console are locked in there. There's even in the design, there's these little handles that go around the side, which are really great, just to kind of push and pull. But since children are using them and children can be a little bit rough on equipment, they also kind of are like these little bumpers. So that way, if it bumps into a wall or something, it's not going to break, which is really nice. And even some things like there's locks on the wheel. So if a child pushes it, the go-kart isn't going to roll away. And then they're stranded in the hospital bed with the go-kart across the room.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So obviously you help sick kids, but who exactly do you guys try to help? Like long-term hospital stays or short-term?
That is a really great question, and I would actually say that varies hospital to hospital. Obviously, our main focus is pediatric hospitals. For context, we're in 94% of pediatric hospitals in the U.S., all 50 states, and we're actually in, I think, 15 to 16 countries. The 16th may be in the works right now, so it may not have been delivered. So our focus really is children around the world, but that doesn't necessarily mean that children are the only ones that use our go-karts. And hospitals kind of decide they use it sometimes just maybe in emergency room waiting rooms. So maybe a parent is coming to the hospital and they have to bring their child with them. And their child needs a distraction. Maybe it's siblings waiting for a patient to get out of treatment. Obviously, patients that are in there both long and short-term stays can use those. We also have people that use those that maybe is not the typical use for go-kart, but I've talked to child life specialists who have used go-karts and video games to explain difficult subjects like end of life for a caretaker of that child, and using video games as a bridge to explain those things to a young child who maybe doesn't understand that.
Right.
There are definitely hospitals that even for, like you said, long-term patients who are in strict quarantine and have their own air systems, so that way it's not even the air that is in the rest of the hospital being brought into the room. In those cases, they'll sometimes bring the go-kart in there because that child could be in isolation for weeks, and nobody's really allowed to go in there, and they'll put the cart in there so that way maybe they could play with their friends who are at home. Or, you know, as you said, a shorter stay, maybe you get out of a procedure, you have that go-kart to use before your discharge. It just kind of varies based on how the hospital likes to use that, and I think it's probably one of the more interesting things to travel and meet these child life specialists that are using the carts, to hear about the different ways that they may integrate that into their patients' care.
Yeah, I would have loved to see them around. I don't think we have any in my area. I was in nursing school for a little while and did some clinicals, and I definitely didn't see any, sadly, in any of these hospitals.
Interesting.
But it would have been really neat to actually see them in person.
You might be able to. So this is actually for anybody that is listening, or even yourself. If you go to our homepage and scroll down, there's actually an interactive map, so gamersoutreach.org. There's a map with all of the locations up to the most recent update. So there's always some locations that aren't on there, but you can actually go to that map and see if there are any go-karts in locations near you. And if they're not, you should definitely submit them to us so that we can reach out to the hospital and see if they'd like to be added to our wish list.
Oh, that's awesome. And also, everyone listening, their links will be in the description of this episode below, so you guys can easily go and look at Gamers Outreach for yourself. But so why do you use video games? Is it because it is so versatile for different people and age ranges?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple different reasons. One of the reasons is that if you are a patient that is stuck in a hospital bed or somewhere that they cannot be able to get up and out and about or moving quite so much, video games really are probably one of the only tools that you can use to explore a different world, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of patients tell us specifically that the go-karts are kind of an escape. You may be in this very scary, isolating, foreign place that is not your usual routine and things like that, but maybe you can kind of go into Minecraft and just kind of be in a different place for that hour that you're playing the video games. Or for some patients, we use video games because video games are pretty commonplace in a lot of people's homes, and that could bring a sense of normalcy. Maybe they are used to playing video games with their siblings or their friends every day or every couple days, and having the ability to do that in a hospital is kind of just reminding them of how it is like when they're outside of the hospital, and gives them that kind of escape. And as you said, video games, I think there's just so many different video games that we've even seen grandparents that are in hospitals that have never touched video games before in their lives. And there was one grandfather that a hospital staff actually told us he really loved golf, and they put a golfing game on the cart for him and his grandson, and he absolutely loved it. So I think one of those things with video games is that there truly is a video game for everybody. Even if you've not tried it yet, I would believe that there's something on the go-kart that we can kind of find that you can do. And video games are really a shared activity. So it allows parents to play with their children, or even children to just kind of get online and talk and play with their friends who are home at school. There was a really touching story from a parent who told us the only reason that their child got through their hospital stay, which he was in the hospital for months, was that every day at 4 o'clock on the dot, his friends would get on Minecraft after school, so that way he could stay connected and have that social outlet that children are missing and really need during that core development point of their life.
Yeah, I can imagine that it's extremely difficult for kids who aren't able to go out and do what they want to do. And I can definitely see how video games help relieve that kind of that need and desire.
100%. And at the end of the day, Gamers Outreach staff members are all gamers at heart. So that is also probably part of why I think everybody on our team is gamers. We see firsthand how impactful and important they are for us. Mm-hmm. And we often say when we're in the hospital, we wish we had go-karts too.
Yeah. I definitely wish I had go-karts when I was in the hospital.
Absolutely.
So what kind of charity events do you have for content creators?
Yeah, so we host 4 kind of tentpole events throughout the year. Our first big kickoff event actually just ended in April, so we're still in the end of April, but it just concluded, which is Gamers for Giving. We host this every year. This past April was actually our 19th Gamers for Giving. Gamers for Giving is part in-person LAN. So in Michigan, we have a whole LAN center where hundreds of people bring their computers and they're all playing video games in the same spot. And then we also have people streaming and fundraising on site. But we also have hundreds of people streaming online from home, and that is really our kickoff event for the year. Gamers for Giving recaps everything we did the previous year and kind of what our goals are for the upcoming fundraising year. And this is kind of our kickoff. After that, we go into our VTuber Summer Slam, which is an event for VTubers. It is our largest event by participant numbers, just because there are so many VTubers that come out and support that event, and it's a ton of fun. We have some different mascots that you can choose to pick and have represent you, although it's just for fun, so that way people can kind of have some a little bit of fun competition between the 2 or 3 different mascots. And then after we finish VTuber Summer Slam, we actually have a Halloween-themed event called our Spooktacular Streamathon, which has been going on, I think, 7 years now. So we're coming up on our 7th Spooktacular Streamathon, where it's all things themed Halloween. There's a costume contest and an art contest as part of that event, which is a lot of fun. That has prizing and things like that. And it's always nice to see people coming out, whether they're just doing their usual content or carving pumpkins and dressing up. It's a lot of fun. Who doesn't like Halloween, right? And then at the end of the year, we have our Jolly Jamboree, which is our end of year kind of wrap up where people come and join. It's just wintry themed, not any specific holiday, just because we are inclusive to everybody joining. And it's just kind of our way to celebrate at the end of the year and the holidays, where a lot of our content creators or people who generally fundraise for us typically want to do something just to kind of close out the year with us, and it's a lot of fun to end there. Outside of those 4 tent poles, we also have the option for people to fundraise outside of those events, so you will see little events throughout the year where people may be fundraising individually or even as a group, and those kind of vary year to year.
Okay. And what are the general donation goals? Like, I know one of them is the go-kart. That's like the big, like, what is it, 3,500 for one?
They are 4,000 now. It was our first price increase, I think, in like 15 years it was. Unfortunately, with tariffs, the materials to build the carts, the shipping, and even the consoles themselves went up. So it was the first price increase we had to do in a very long time.
Right.
But a US-based cart is $4,000. Those are probably where a decent chunk of our fundraising goes to. The go-karts, as I described earlier, are those portable carts that can be wheeled room to room. They're really great because they can be put in a waiting area. You can roll it into a patient's room. You can put it next to a chemo station, anything that you may need. It is super portable as long as there's an outlet nearby. But we do actually have a couple other programs that we fundraise for, or just general things outside of that. For context, we just got a warehouse that we funded last year. This allows us to utilize the new mold that we fundraised the year before. We graduated to our 3.0 model of the go-kart. That allows us to produce go-karts in batches of 1,000 rather than 100, which is huge.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And with that new warehouse that we funded last year, which we're still fundraising, obviously, for things for the warehouse, we can now store and ship more go-karts per month, which allows us to escalate that timeline of how quickly we get go-karts to hospitals, which is huge. So part of that is obviously just fundraising for things like that, whether it's a new mold or the warehouse, or just different new projects that we're working on outside of the go-kart. But we do have other projects, including the go-kart, that we fundraise for, such as Save Point. Save Point is what I call, is kind of like, think of an upscale vending machine. It's a vending machine that patients can get a token for, and then hospital staff can use that as a motivation of like, okay, well, when you get out of this procedure or treatment, or maybe even just to get them out of the bed, which is a huge struggle sometimes with people who aren't feeling really well, they can say, let's walk down to the Save Point machine, and you'll get something from the machine. You can take it home with you, and it's a nice reward that way. And we fill those things with different things, whether it's a beanie or a plushie or little figures, anything. We have a wide variety, so there's stuff for them. So we do fundraise for those. Those are currently being tested in a couple of hospitals, which hospitals have seemed to love, and kids are super excited to be able to go down and pick something out of the machine and take it home with them. And then we also have Player 2, which we use some of the funding from our events to help run that program, which is our volunteer program that anybody could go and sign up for. And with that is our program where we work with local hospitals. If they need somebody to come in, maybe it's something like, hey, nobody in the hospital knows how to update the Xbox, or they want somebody to come and play with the kids because the kids want to play with a real gamer and not their parents who don't know what buttons on the controller are. So there's a wide variety of things you could do that way. That we always are trying to fund for all of our programs, obviously. And then once we do fund for Save Point, Player 2, Go-Kart, we also try to use additional funds to help us grow, whether it is things like that warehouse or the mold, or working on new videos to show off the go-karts that are in hospitals and things like that. That's what we use those funds for.
I didn't really know exactly what you guys used it for outside of the go-karts, because that obviously was what I was raising funds with all the other VTubers.
Yeah.
But what exactly is VTuber SummerSlam?
VTuber SummerSlam is our annual fundraising event that really is just to highlight VTubers. At the end of the day, it is an event exclusively for VTubers, and I like to tell people who are not familiar with what VTubers are or the VTuber SummerSlam that this is an event to show that the VTuber community can come together and do good and really change the world. Because at the end of the day, how many VTuber SummerSlams we've had, how much fundraising and how many people have joined, that is what it is doing. At that point, hundreds of thousands of children are using go-karts and are being impacted just because of the VTuber community. And we really felt that there should be a way to highlight all of the good that the VTuber community does, even outside of what we're doing, which is part of why we created the event.
Oh, yeah. Why did you specifically, create an event just for VTubers?
So that is really funny. We created this event years ago, and part of that reason was simply because we had so many VTubers joining our other events, and I will say the VTubing community is just a delight to work with. We have actually some staff members at the time that were VTubers and still are, if you're familiar with Jay Witz. He is one of our talent managers here, and he is a VTuber, so VTubing is very close to home for a lot of people on the team, but it was just astounding. We would look at our events and be like, more than half of our participants are VTubers for this past event. We need to do something to give thanks and really highlight, and that ultimately is why the VTuber SummerSlam was born, was because we were like, okay, we have these fundraising events, and we appreciate all the support that the VTubers are giving us during these events. We want to make something just for them, to show them that we appreciate and to show the world, really. And when we talk to companies that are even not familiar with VTubers, we have the VTuber SummerSlam to show them what the VTubing community can do and how much they have supported us, but really children around the world, which I think that was pretty much our major driver, was saying thank you and putting a big highlight on you all, so that way we can say, look what that community does. They are astounding, whether it's a content creator or people that are viewing the content and donating alongside the content creators. It's just the support from the VTubing community, I think, is just generally unmatched, and we felt that needed to be recognized.
How many years has the VTuber SummerSlam been going on now?
Oh, I think we are coming up on our 5th VTuber SummerSlam, so a little bit less than the Spooktacular, because it started a couple years after that, but it has been going on annually for 5 years, and we're very, very excited. We hope for many years to come, and it definitely seems that way, because it seems like every year is bigger and better for sure.
When is VTuber SummerSlam this year?
It is June 19th. To the 28th, though I always tell everybody, if those dates do not work for you and you want to go early or after the main event, we still have the fundraising event going. There's always people fundraising a little bit before, a little bit after. We call those kind of our kickoff. You can do the pre-fundraising or post-fundraising, but the main date is the 19th through the 28th.
And talking about last year, about how many VTubers joined in, if you have that kind of statistics?
Yeah, I sure do. We had over 1,500 VTubers last year. Generally, we have about 1,500 to 1,700 VTubers that join, depending on the year. Obviously, people sometimes get busy, they're moving, things like that don't allow them to make it every single year. Last year, it was about 1,500, and we're hoping that it is about that or more this year as well.
How much did the VTubers raise last year?
Over $500,000. So we raised $545,000, and then there's a little bit additional that came in after that, but that was our formal announcement of $545,000, which is a lot of money. That is insane.
That is. In such a short time period, too.
Oh, yeah. The one thing with the VTuber SummerSlam, I think, is that it doesn't matter, I think, if it was 2 days or a week, which we always try to give 2 weekends. That way, based on people's schedules, they have at least a weekend to choose, and then there's the week in between in case you work on weekends and things like that. But yeah, the fundraising is insane. The meter never stops moving. I like to tell everybody, during the SummerSlam, it doesn't matter what hour of the day, if you are awake and start looking, somebody is going to be live. There's pretty much fundraising around the clock the entire time that the event is live.
Yeah, the team that I was a part of last year, we had all wrapped up. There was only one person streaming. It was at close to midnight we had given up on reaching our own personal goal of like 13,000 raised. She got that last like 2,000 and into stream at like midnight.
I feel like that's always how it is. You know, you're right at the final end and you're like, oh man, like we just barely missed, and then somehow can rally and make that final goal hit. So congratulations.
Thank you. As you know, my own little personal pride, which mascot team raised the most last year?
I believe it was Sunny, which Sunny is always our number one team, I believe. I would have to double check and I could look at there. I have been Team Sandy the last couple of years, which is always our underdog, but I think they actually passed Shelly last year. So it was Sunny, Sandy, and Shelly. And the previous year, it was Sunny, Shelly, and then Sandy. So I'm hoping that Sandy and Shelly make a comeback and take out Team Sunny this year.
Yeah, I was part of Team Sandy. Aw.
How could you not? That face from Sandy is just hilarious.
Yes. And so I know how VTuber SummerSlam works, but obviously listeners don't. VTubers are able to join as a team or do solo, right?
Yeah, so you can fundraise with others or by yourself, as you said. And if you want to fundraise with others, and I will flag, like, if you don't have a team to join, if you're running a team, maybe they could join you. There's always teams welcome to taking additional VTubers who are maybe a little bit nervous or don't want to do it by themselves. But there are also people that prefer to kind of do it solo and do their own thing, and that's okay. Even if you join a team, I always tell people you don't actually have to play or stream with that person. You could just do fundraising as a team. Though I do think it's a little bit more fun if you do end up playing or interacting with your teammates in some way, but it's all optional.
Yeah, for anyone interested, the team that I'm a part of is Team Splashers, which I think we were in the top 15 earners last year.
Yeah.
They do put out some applications and requests of anyone who wants to join, and they're always bringing in new people every year. So, you know, keep an eye out on Twitter for that.
Was there any highlights from your stream or favorite moments from your fundraiser last year?
It was probably the SCP collab that we did, because that game allows like up to 60 people to play. So we could have the entire team Splashers in if we wanted to. And it was just a chaotic mess, and I hadn't spoken to any of them before, and it was great.
That sounds like lovely chaos for sure.
Yeah, it really was. But yeah, no, I love Gamers Outreach. I'm going to be honest. I was so excited when I was contacted to join VTuber SummerSlam last year. I'm really excited to join it again this year. And I was really, really happy that I could get someone from Gamers Outreach to do this interview so that I could like get it out before SummerSlam happens and have people learn about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I tell everybody it is an honor. So thank you for joining us. We really can't do what we do without all of you. That is a core part of our fundraising, and the thanks are really all ours. So thank you for coming. It was an honor and a pleasure to be able to extend you an invitation. We do try to send out as many invitations as we can. I tell everybody we try to make sure that there's content for everybody, so every child feels represented, whether it's a small creator, a large creator, different content types, different backgrounds. We want everybody to be able to join. So if you are interested in joining, definitely reach out. And we love doing interviews, so thank you for even allowing us the opportunity to come and talk to you and talk about what we do.
I'm more than happy to. I have a lot of health issues myself, and so like I really connect with, you know, kids who are struggling in hospitals and needing some sort of escape for it. So I really like the charity a lot.
Oh, thank you. Likewise, I actually have a connective tissue disorder, so I spend a lot of time in and out of the hospital. So this is also a cause that's very close to my heart. And I feel like a lot of people who do end up fundraising for us for some reason, whether it's a family member that has spent time in the hospital or even health issues themselves like you, can really just relate to what we do. And that is ultimately what we're looking for when we invite people to our event, is that they feel passionate about what we do, because we feel passionate about what we do too.
And I think it's one of the few things that is like universally brings people together, is helping kids. So I think it brings in a lot of people that may not get along outside of it, but hey, it's for the kids, so it doesn't matter.
100%. I agree with that too. I think that it is a cause and a mission that most people can relate to at the end of the day. If you say, hey, we want to be able to help kids who are sick in the hospital, have a sense of escapism and be able to play while they're there and make it a little bit less scary. Of course, there may be some people that don't really want to participate in that mission, but for most people, I think that it's just an easy yes at the end of the day. Kids are people in our communities that need us most because they're children. They rely on us to be able to support them, and hospitals typically don't have the funds for things like this because they spend a lot of their money, rightfully so, on research and treatment. That's where their money has to go, and then they don't have things like go-karts or even toys, and those rely on donations, just because we all know quality of life and your mental health does actually impact recovery rates and things like that. So those go-karts are really helpful for those children, and the hospitals are extremely grateful. In fact, I think we have over 600 hospital requests on our wish list right now of hospitals who want go-karts and cannot buy them themselves. So that is what we typically work for towards our fundraising events. And the upcoming VTuber SummerSlam, the carts that we fundraise will be going to all those hospitals who reached out to us and told us that they need carts or they need more carts because they love them, essentially.
Oh, I am excited to join again this year, and I can't wait. It was fun. It'll be fun again this year.
Awesome. Yeah, it definitely should be a fun time. I like I said, I think that the VTuber SummerSlam is probably like the biggest, almost kind of party of the year where everybody is kind of celebrating together. It's so nice to see everyone come together and even collaborate or do things together. And I'm very excited to tune into your stream this year and see what you come up with.
Thank you. But I think that's all I had for questions-wise for you. Unless if there's anything else you want to like specifically mention about Gamers Outreach or any of the events.
No, I think that was most of it. If anybody ever has any questions, I would definitely encourage them to reach out. We're more than happy to answer any questions that people have. And if they want to get involved or they have more questions about the event specifically, feel free to reach out. And then I can also send you a bunch of information too, so you can have that in case you need that or want to share that with anyone.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would just say thank you. I mean, thank you for having me. Thank you for sharing our mission. Thank you to everybody listening in.
Of course. And once again, the links to Gamers Outreach and their official website and maybe even their Player 2 will all be in the description below. And when this comes out as like an actual video format on YouTube, we'll probably have information pop up on the screen of all of the different things and pictures of the go-karts and everything like that. But thank you everyone so much for listening. Thank you guys for tuning in to talk about this really, really important charity that I care a lot about. And thank you, Anastasia, for taking time out to come do this for me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
And thank you and goodbye, everyone.